yeah, cockroach naps, rattling traps. How many devils can you fit up on a match?
So guys, according to reports from all over the nation this weekend, gun shows have seen record numbers of attendees, and gun sales have been increasing ever since this last mass shooting. And this is something we see after all these incidents. But I want to talk to you guys about a particular gun show, and that is the Florida gun show that was held in Tampa, Florida this weekend. This gun show, their organizers are reporting that they had a record number of sales with over 7,000 attendees in the first day alone. Guys, I don't know if any of you have ever owned a business or worked in retail, but 7,000 attendees in one day is just incredible. I mean, most gun shows are held in small venues, sometimes like a civic center or a local arena, and they might have 30 or 40 vendors. Normal attendance is probably somewhere between 500 and 2,000 people, just depending on the size of the gun show. But 7,000 is just unbelievable. This is what you would see in a mall over a couple of weekends. So a spokesperson for the gun show, George Fernandez, told ABC Channel 10 News out of Florida that some people are attending because they are afraid that future legislation may be passed that would limit their legal gun ownership rights. Well, duh. Yes, some people are going out and buying guns because they're afraid that, somebody will pass a law that will limit the sale of certain types of firearms. But the sales of high-capacity magazines and bump stocks aren't high enough to justify or warrant the kind of numbers we're seeing of people buying guns. And the sales reports don't show that. The sales reports show that people are buying Glocks, people are buying revolvers, people are buying shotguns, things like that. And so, in my opinion, there are two reasons why we're seeing this rise in gun sales after these mass shooting events. And that's what I want to talk about today. So, guys, the first reason I think that we are seeing these increases after these mass shooting events is not because people want to go buy a bump stock or something they're afraid might get banned. The numbers just aren't high enough, like I said. The reason I think we're seeing this is, first of all, it's a form of silent protest. Right now, we are seeing our institutions being stacked against us in this country. And when I say us, I mean people on the right, people who are pro-gun, pro-liberty. And I'm not talking about people in Congress or the president even. President Trump, let's be honest, has not been that great on gun rights. And I even did a video rebuttal against one of his tweets that he put out calling for stricter gun laws. And you guys should go check that out. It's very poignant, and I really take him to task on these things. Let's put Trump aside for a second and the neocons. I want to talk about why they believe this kind of thing. And that is, when I say our institutions are stacked against us, I am talking about academia who put out false statistics all the time about gun ownership, or are these tropes that just don't go along with the FBI crime statistics. I'm also talking about the mainstream media who are out there parading around kids and using emotional arguments instead of logical arguments. But the worst is the social media. And this weekend, my channel and many other channels, including Alex Jones's, had videos taken down and given a strike. And they gave us all a strike for bullying. Now, what did I do? I did not bully anybody. Neither did Alex Jones or probably any of those creators. But we talked about how CNN was picking these people these kids, and I should say they are victims, yes, but they're picking the ones who have the shaved head feminist look, who have the soy boy demeanor, and who seem to want to be on camera, want to talk about gun control, and who are so vitriolic and so hateful when they speak about these issues and they talk about people who disagree with them. And we saw that when they were talking to Dana Loesch and Marco Rubio. The things they said were just disgusting. And my video gets removed because I brought this up. And others brought this up. We talked about how CNN was coaching kids and they were not putting the kids on air who are pro-gun, like Colton Hobb. Now, this really, it pushes people the wrong way. And this is something people see and they want to rebel against this. When you don't have a voice, when your voice is being censored, people want to go out and do anything they can to push back. And so the one thing that many of us can do is go walk into a gun show and buy more guns just to give a big middle finger to the people who are doing this. So my first reason is silent protests. But the second reason I believe that we're seeing gun sales in mass after these mass shooting events is very much tied into that first. And that is that I believe many Americans truly think we are heading towards a civil war in this country. And I'm not just talking about people on the right, and this is not a fringe idea. When I went to research this, I looked up all kinds of information on how many people think we're heading towards a civil war, if there were any polls out there about this, and I found some alarming polls at that. But really, what interests me the most was that so many magazines and newspapers have written articles about this over the last few years, and it's not just on the right wing. News organizations like Vox, Vice, the Huffington Post, and some on the right, like the Federalist and the American Review, that are very respected, put out magazine articles with titles like "How do we stop the coming civil war?" or "Is America heading towards a new form of civil war?" And one of them was even, "Is this cold civil war that we're in right now about to go hot?" So this is something that people have been talking about, and it seems like they're talking about it more and more nowadays. I do believe that we are heading towards a civil war in this country. And when you look at history from around the world of civil wars, there are several factors that are usually consistent. And one of these being that the government or an entity that is maybe a region is taking away from another group. That is happening here. We are losing more and more liberties to government every year. We are seeing certain regions trying to legislate for the whole country. The other factor is that you see a propaganda machine from one side, or authoritarians from one side trying to silence dissenters from another side, and that is very much happening. In fact, the stuff we are seeing right now is stuff George Orwell could have never imagined. I mean, you have Google manipulating search results so that you don't see certain search results. A while back, I was trying to research Black Lives Matter violence and the shooting in Dallas, and all I found was pictures of white people beating up black people on Google. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. And we know they have lots of pictures of the riots in Baltimore, the riots in Ferguson, but they just don't show up. And this is manipulative. It's very much trying to socially engineer how people see these things and push a certain agenda. And that's what we're seeing with gun control and the debate. They're using kids to try to make this emotional argument to take away people's Second Amendment rights. And guys, losing our First Amendment rights is bad enough. But when you take the First and the Second, that's definitely a formula to push us into a serious conflict in this country. And I don't think people are going to stand for the loss of either of them anymore. And that's what this is all about. Going out and buying guns en masse is saying, hey, look, we're not going to let you take anything away. In fact, we're going to stockpile these things so that if you do try to come take them, you will be met with some severe resistance. And you know what? I don't blame anybody for going out and buying a ton of guns right now. And I think, maybe we should all go out and buy AR-15s and maybe go do a open carry march on Washington. They can't arrest 1 million people, right? So I do believe that open carry marches are very important. It's a way we can push back and reverse the course on this dark path we're down towards civil war. And the right has never been good at organizing or protesting, and we're not getting our voices out there like the left has. I mean, they've been a very vocal minority for a very long time, and they have a lot of attention around them, and we need to be better at that. But I think going out there with our AR-15s, with our Glock pistols, and saying, look, we're here, and we're responsible. We're not the bumbling idiots the left paints us as, or these nefarious people. We just want to defend our homes and property and our children. And owning a gun, whether it be for defense or for sport, is something that's normal in America. There are 600 million guns in America, and the media is lying to you when they say that only 30 or 40% of households own guns, because that would mean that the households that own guns are owning 10 or 15 guns each. That's ridiculous. So, yeah, we need to go out there and show that we can be armed and responsible, and that's not us responsible gun owners. It's not middle class, middle America Republicans committing all the gun crime in this country, that most gun crimes are committed with illegal guns. Once you red pill the left on something like that, their whole world falls apart. We see this time and time again where somebody who has been fed the BS from the media, from academia all their lives, once they get red pilled on something like gun ownership or feminism, they start seeing everything else for how it really is. And that's pushing that Overton window back to the right. And that's something we need to do. So another thing I think we should all do is go out and bring your leftist friends to the range. In fact, bring their wives, bring their whole families. And if you don't have a leftist friend, if they've all disavowed you like they have to me, you go out and just catfish one and bring them to the range, put a gun in their hand, and once they start squeezing that trigger, they're going to enjoy it. Unless they're a total pussy soy boy, like that one reporter who said shooting an AR-15 gave him PTSD. And by the way, I have PTSD from being in a war where people were shooting rockets at us every day and blowing up car bombs. Yeah, that made me sick. But, most people, once they get to the range, they start pulling that trigger. They realize it's just a tool and that they're not a danger to anybody. Not more dangerous than a car or a hammer or anything else you might hold in your hand. They'll start liking it. They're going to crack a smile once those rounds start going down range. And I hear stories about this all the time. I brought my friend to the range. He was a total gun grabber. He starts shooting. Next week he calls me, hey, where do I get one of these guns? And, that's how we break them. Look, once you get somebody on board with the Second Amendment, then you get them on board with the First Amendment. Next thing you know, they're out there burning their Antifa flag and buying an American Gadsden flag. And, here's the other thing. More gun ownership is very important in this country for no other reason than we are going to put the fear of God back in our politicians. And that's something we should have done a long time ago. After Kennedy was assassinated, that would have been the optimal time for everybody to go out and buy guns en masse. Because, we're at this time now where our politicians have become the swamp, like Trump says. And, like I said, Trump's not great on this gun issue. But the fact is that Democrats, they love democracy until they lose. They love government until they lose. Then they hate government. And that should be a wake-up call for them that, big government is never the answer to any of their problems. And that the people change their minds. And when the people change their mind on an issue, you don't want a huge government with a bunch of bootlickers to come crushing down on you. And government should fear their people. Anyway, guys, I'm Kevin. I am Patriot Punk. Go check out my new channel. It's called Patriot Punk. I am trying to make this switch over to Liberty Network with Mr. Dapperton and crew. And I am opening a new channel called Patriot Punk for these videos going forward. So I will have Marxism the New AIDS, but I want you guys all to go subscribe to Patriot Punk. And maybe eventually I'll just switch everything over there. And check out Dapperton's Liberty Network too. Go subscribe if you haven't. Good night, guys. God bless America.